So 2 days ago I spoke about the obstacles to concentration and the antidotes for them. So when we are able to concentrate the mind, then knowledge develops. We start to know. And it's important to practice to develop knowledge, because we come here with some type of faith. We have confidence that this practice will be beneficial. We understand, we may have faith and confidence in the Buddha or in the Dhamma or in the Sangha of monks, or we may simply have the understanding that when we do something good, it brings a good result. And if we do something bad, it will bring a bad result. And with this, in confidence that this is a good thing to do that will benefit us, we come to practice. So there should be this type of faith at the base of our practice. But then we need to, if we don't, we may have faith because we heard about the practice, or in any case, for some reason, our faith and confidence in this becomes awake. But if we don't cultivate it further, if we don't actually do the practice and develop knowledge to some extent, then the faith that is wakened up will fall back asleep. So our practice can support our confidence, our further confidence in the practice. So we give ourselves, while we do the task of Satipatthana, we observe 4 kinds of objects: kaya, that is matter, or the group of matter; vedana, feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral; citta, or the consciousness; and dhamma, the various acts of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and so on. And we apply mental energy as well as aim, so that the mind faces the object directly, and we observe steadfastly. So as we do this, we start with kaya. And of course there are many, as we mentioned, that kaya is just a group of things. There are many parts to this, like on a gross level: sitting down, standing up, going, stopping, lying down, bending, stretching. All these things are in all these things, kaya is obvious. So today I want to talk about the process of sitting down, both in a theoretical way and a practical way. When we're in a standing position and about to sit down, there are 2 things that are involved. One is the intention to sit down arises, and this is mental or nama. And gradually the body goes down. It gets heavier and heavier. You may feel stiffness. And the body that gradually sits down is rupa, or matter. And this mind and matter, nama and rupa, are evident in the moment of sitting down. And it said, in the moment of sitting, what sits down is the body, intention is mind. So these are evident in the moment of sitting down. The mental dhamma of wanting to sit down, the physical dhamma of actually the body sitting down. But if we don't observe them when they happen, then we won't know either of these. We won't know the mental dhamma of the intention to sit down, nor will we know the physical dhamma of sitting down. So we have to observe carefully. And when we do this, we can know that there's a series of intentions to sit down, and a series of physical acts as the body gradually sits down. So this together, the series of intentions to sit down and the series of actions that make up the body actually going into a sitting down posture, are what we call sitting down. And when we do this, we label it as sitting down, sitting down. So when we are sitting down from the standing posture, we put our mind on the body, and we use the label of sitting down, sitting down. We label this action silently in the mind. And this is consistent with what we read in the Satipatthana Sutta, Kaya Kaya Nupasi Viharati, that when in sitting down, we observe it as sitting down. In the Kaya, we observe it as Kaya repeatedly. So we observe the Kaya as Kaya. And the forces that we need to do to have the type of observation that is called in Pali Anupassana, or repeated observation. First of all, we need ardent effort so that the mind lands fully on the physical process of sitting down. And this is called in Pali Atapa. Okay. So as we read in the Sutta Atapi, that is the yogi who meditates possesses this ardent energy. And also it is said satima. Sati should always be there from the very slightest beginning of the act of sitting down until the end, so that we don't miss it. So we have to have the observation of sati in order to know what is happening. And because of the steadfast observation, making ardent effort, which brings with it sati, then the mind will fall collectedly on the object of sitting down. And this collectedness of mind is samadhi, or concentration. So although the text does not say samadhi is present, in fact it's present, but it's not directly mentioned in the sutta. That we make effort and also bring our sati to the object, and this also creates samadhi. So these three factors need to be present. So when the mind is collected on the object in this way, as we sit down, we come to know that either the body gets heavier and heavier bit by bit, or stiffness arises bit by bit. There's softness. It varies where you are having the attention. So we come clearly, this act of sitting down, and this knowing clearly is called sampajanya. A person who sees clearly like this is sampajano, which we see in the text. So we know clearly like this, and it is not an ordinary way of knowing. First of all, one knows correctly. One sees in detail how there is one segment after another, there's one bit after another, and each one of these is different from another in the process of sitting down. So there's the meaning of knowing correctly and knowing distinctly, as well as knowing for oneself. One doesn't know this because of reading it in a book. One knows it because of applying the practice and seeing it with one's own mind. And one knows fully. And this way of knowing is not only distinct, but it is also special. It is better than the type of knowing that comes from reading a book or from reflecting about how things are. So to have these factors of mind, to make ardent effort to be full of sati, for the mind to be collected and to see in this clear, special way, all these make up what we say in the text, anupasi. One dwells seeing clearly like this. And if we analyze the components of what we're observing, of the process of sitting down, there's mind and matter, nama and rupa. So why, if both of these are present, do we give priority to observing matter? when mind and matter are present in everything that we do, then why do we give priority to observing matter? So it is because it is said in the text, Yata pakadang vipassana biniveso, which means that vipassana observation begins with the obvious object. And nama, or mind, mentality, is not very obvious, whereas rupa, or matter, is very obvious. So we give priority to the evident matter, and we observe sitting down by focusing on the body. So we can't just get into a sitting down posture quickly. If we sit down, and also if we sit down slowly, but we don't observe at the time of sitting down, then we won't know anything. So not only do we have to go slowly when we change our posture from the standing position into the sitting position, but we also have to have steadfast observation. And if we sit down bit by bit, slowly like a sick person does, then when the mind falls on stiffness, one will know the stiffness. If the mind falls on qualities like heaviness, the mind will know this heaviness. So the qualities that arise, one will come to know. Stiffness or tension or heaviness. And this stiffness, tension, heaviness that happen in the sitting down are matter, or rupa. The knowing of this is nama, or mind. So in this process of observing the sitting down, there's the object observed and the mind observing it. So this is something that can't be known by kind of thinking it out. Of course we can think, oh yes, of course there must be mind and matter. They must both be involved when we sit down. But we only know this clearly if we observe in the moment of sitting down. And when we know clearly like that, the physical process of sitting down and the mind that is observing the physical process, then we know in a very real way that there is no person in here. There's no man, there's no such thing. In ultimate reality, there's no such thing as a man or a woman. There's just mind and matter occurring. And so when one knows like this, one feels confident in the practice. One feels confident in what the Buddha has said, that there is no such thing as a self. And this type of confidence is an increase of faith. So when we sit down, we observe this process of sitting down. And if we observe it many times, again and again and again, when our effort and mindfulness and concentration become strong enough, then we develop knowledge. And we come to see that there's a series of intentions to sit down that occurs. And as the result of this, there's a series of actions of sitting down. So these two are connected as cause and effect. So this is an increase in what one knows from being able to discern that there's the physical object and the mind observing it. The further one can see that the intention to sit down results in sitting down. So because of observing closely and carefully at the moment of sitting down, then one knows distinctly these two things, the series of intentions to sit down and the series of actions of sitting down. And this causes further faith and confidence in the practice. So the first way that we see distinctly when we, the first type of clear knowledge that we have is this distinction between mind and matter. Being able to see that matter is one thing and mind is another. And because of knowing the qualities that are really there, the qualities of the physical qualities and the mental qualities, it becomes clear that there is no such thing as a self or a soul inside one's body. And this idea that there is a self inside becomes dispelled on a part-time basis. This idea or concept is only removed when one realizes the first stage of path and fruition, Sotapatti path. So if we talk about this, in Pali this is called attaditi, the false view of self. And in order to talk about that, I want to explain this type of belief, the belief in atta, or self. So there are two types of atta, paramatta and jivata. That is, parama, a great being, and an individual being. And to speak about just this jiva atta, or individual self or soul, this belief is described in the Indian texts of old, and these texts explain that every being has a soul inside them. And this is what allows us to see or hear or smell. When we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, think, it's because of the atta that this happens. And that soul is big. If it's an elephant has a very big soul. These texts describe, and if it's an ant, then it has a very small one. And when it's not destroyed, but it remains. So they called this jiva atta in the days of old in India. And when there is this belief in a soul, then there also will, this also includes a belief in that there's such a thing as a person, or a being, and man or woman. All these identifications come when one has the concept that there's a soul inside. If in fact at the moment of sitting down one doesn't observe, one doesn't focus on the body and observe with aim, effort, and steadfast observation this series of intentions to sit down, the series of actions of sitting down, then one won't know the nature of mind and matter, which are really there at that time. And if one doesn't know this, then the belief will arise that there's a being that is doing this. A being is sitting down. A person is sitting down. In reality, there's just a conglomerate of mind and matter, a series of intentions and a series of actions. So this mind and matter, this conglomerate of mind and matter, which is really there, is called in Pali Sakkaya, Sakkaya, the really existing, directly visible conglomeration of mind and conglomeration of matter. And in the moment of sitting down, there are just these two things. But if one doesn't make ardent effort in the mind and observe steadfastly, then one thinks regarding that really existing Sakkaya, mind and matter, that there's a person sitting. And so this is also called Sakkaya Detti. It's called Atta Detti, belief in a self, but it is also called a mistaken view regarding the really existing mind and body. So now, however, because of observing, one can know this series of intentions, as some of the yogis may be aware of. They know the series of intentions to sit down, and they know the series of actions of sitting down. So when one knows like this, then this false view of self, attadeti, or this false view regarding the really existing mind and body, is removed. So the Buddha had a word for the mind and matter, this really existing mind and matter, and he used the word Dhamma for this. this Dhamma, it is not a being. It is said in Pali, not a being, not a living thing, but just true nature, sabhava. So the true nature of mind is that it knows. The mind or nama knows the object. And the nature of rupa is that it is incapable of knowing. It's not able to know. They're just qualities or true nature, you can say. So therefore it's said it is not a being, not a soul. Ni satta ni jiva. So the question arises, is it nothing at all in that case? So the something that is there is sabhava, or true nature, and this is what one comes to know moment by moment. Because of observing what arises and observing closely, it becomes clear there's not a soul, there's not a being, just this mind and matter. But this mind and this matter, they have causes. They arise due to causes. And if one doesn't yet know the cause for things to arise, then there are various doubts or ideas that can arise. For example, these things might not have any cause at all. There might not be any cause for sitting down. Or perhaps someone made me do this. Perhaps there's someone commanding it. So one has to increase what one knows another step in order to go beyond this question about what causes things to happen. So the cause for the action, as one knows from continuing to observe the action of sitting down, for example, the cause for the action to occur is the intention to sit down. Because of the series of intentions to sitting down results. And it becomes clear, as the yogi observes, it naturally becomes clear without any type of reflection that causes bring immediate results. There's an immediate connection between a cause and its result. So it becomes very clear in the yogi's mind that there is no one causing this to happen. There's no one external commanding the sitting down to happen. It's just a process that occurs due to its own cause. So in this way, one's doubt about what is happening is removed. So a worldly example that is similar to how intentions cause actions is how in a factory, especially this may not describe a modern factory, but in a factory there may be a motor. Machines may be driven by a motor. And this motor is just metal, basically, with things attached to it. And it doesn't move or turn on its own. It's just a lifeless piece of metal. But when you connect it to the source of electricity, so that the electricity flows, then it turns and everything connected with it also goes into action, starts to move. So before the electricity flows into the motor, that motor just stays there motionless. And same with everything connected to it. There's no motion at all. But when the electricity flows, then movement occurs. So it's obvious that in this case, the movement of the motor and the machinery in the factory is due to the electrical current. And in sitting down also, the series of intentions occurs creating the movement. It's like the electricity. And the movement of the body performing the action of the sitting down is just like the machine that moves as a result of the electricity flowing. So the movement of sitting down, the physical act of sitting down, has its own cause. So the mind all of a sudden knows, going to sit down, because either one is tired of standing, It can happen like that. One has been walking too long. There's discomfort. All these types of things can bring about the desire to sit down or the intention to sit down. So all those types of conditions can bring about the intention, the desire to sit down. So this is just a simple example to show how cause and effect are related, how things are related by cause and effect. And further, when the yogi is aware of the intention to sit down, this awareness, or the intention to sit down, is the object, and the noting mind knows this intention. So in this case, the intention to sit down is the cause, and the noting mind that arises to observe this phenomena is the result. And because of this series of actions that make up the sitting down process, the noting mind arises sitting down. If that action of sitting down weren't there, the noting mind would not arise to observe it. So again, there is a case of because of the object, in this case, the physical sitting down, there's the noting mind that arises as a result. So these are just examples of how the mind and body are related as cause and effect in this one act of sitting down. So there are many types of causal relations that we can observe, and in order to gain practical knowledge, one needs to focus carefully on the action that one is doing. It's very important to be able to focus on the action one is about to do very carefully and to move slowly. Because if we move quickly, bending or stretching or sitting down or standing up, we won't see anything at all. Our mindfulness won't be present. So, and at that time, thinking will enter, and then one will just imagine about what is happening. So, as has been said a few times before, it's good to make every movement as like an invalid, and put your mental focus fully on the action that you're performing. So we make the ardent effort to get the mind to the object, and to make the mind see the object directly or squarely, look at it head on rather than at an angle. We aim the mind, and we have to do this again and again and again. Even if no knowledge arises, still the mind isn't going anywhere else. So this is an immediate benefit that we get from applying effort and aiming. So if these two factors of aiming and effort are balanced, then every movement that we observe, every moment of observation, mindfulness or sati will arise, and the mind will come to stick to the object. It won't slip off. So in this case, one will have full mental energy in one's observation. And an example of what this is like, about how we should practice, is that when we eat a lump of food, a bit of food, if we just swallow it down, we won't know very much about that food. We won't know anything about the taste. If we chew it once or twice, that's like applying a little bit of mindfulness, then we'll know the taste of it a little bit. So if we want to know all the tastes that are in this bit of food that's in our mouth, we need to chew it again and again, repeatedly. And then, when we do this, we'll know the various flavors that are involved. So, and not only will one know the various flavors of the food, but our food will be well digested. Similarly, in every move that we make, there are mind and matter, nama and rupa, and these have qualities. They're individual qualities that are like the flavors that are in a morsel of food. So if we chew well, if we don't chew well, then we won't know the true nature. That is, if we don't observe again and again, we won't know true nature. If we have a little bit of sati, then we will know the object a little bit. But if we chew well and fully, then we will know the taste of the object and we will feel very satisfied. And so one will be, just as with food, one will be satisfied with the Dhamma if we observe it as though we're chewing it well. We still have some more time in the retreat, and I hope that I feel the yogis should have that they have momentum in the practice, for those yogis especially who have already been practicing. And for those yogis who are starting, also this is a good time to be starting. So, by virtue of listening respectfully to this Dhamma talk, I hope that all of you will be able to taste the flavors of the Dhamma well and become satisfied with your experience. That's all.